Are we headed for another pandemic? How is this possible when we're still in a pandemic and dealing with COVID-19, the lifelong side effects that people are going to have from long COVID, and the many countless deaths that have resulted from this pandemic? Unfortunately, the answer, startlingly, is apparently yes. How is this even possible? Well, let's get into it. This one statement scared the shit out of me. Dr. Redfield was on the Hill and said that we will see a great pandemic soon, and that the pandemic we're still living through, by the way, is nothing compared to the next great pandemic. Take a listen.
I do believe the next pandemic, and we're going to have another pandemic, and I think it's going to be the great pandemic. I consider COVID a minor pandemic. The great pandemic is going to come, and normally it would come from spillover. It's going to be bird flu that learns how to transmit to humans and then go human to human. But I think the species barriers are very real, but it's much more probable that it will happen because of gain-of-function research in a laboratory and then escape, and then we're going to have a pandemic with flu, which will be much more brutal to the world than COVID was. But I took this position because I feel very strongly that we need to have a moratorium on gain-of-function research. I told you that the great pandemic is coming. I think it's going to come not from spillover. It's going to come from gain-of-function research or intentional bioterrorism, right? It's going to be a bird flu virus that is manipulated to be able to transmit human to human, very similar to what we saw with the COVID. You know, in 2014, that laboratory published that they finally learned how to take their COVID virus and have it bind to the H2 receptor in humanized mice, and therefore it could go human to human.
These are the three things he's talking about when referring to the next great pandemic. That a bioweapon is likely to be used, that it will come through a vector illness like the flu, and that it will be worse than the COVID pandemic. And to make things even more scary, on the same day that I watched the Redfield interview, I came across this lovely gem that just kind of makes me want to hide under the covers. Take a listen.
A spotlight has been shown on the Chinese Communist Party's biowarfare program. And regardless of whether the COVID virus itself was a part of that program or not, the fact remains that the Chinese Communist Party has a large-scale and very viable biowarfare program in place, of which the Wuhan lab was just a small component. And one of the most shocking things that we know they are developing is a biological weapon that can target and attack the DNA strands specific to certain racial groups. Now, obviously, that sounds very conspiratorial and something like out of a science fiction movie. But what's truly shocking about it is the fact that it's true. The Chinese Communist Party is indeed developing weapons that target specific race and ethnicity markers, which might all of a sudden make it a bit more clear as to why the Chinese Communist Party has been able to stitch together the largest collection of American DNA profiles in the world, even larger than what the US government has been able to collect. They've done this, by the way, not only through good old-fashioned hacking, but also through more, you can say, traditional channels, such as purchasing the data from DNA sequencing companies. But sometimes they don't even have to purchase the data. As an example of what I mean by that, this right here is BGI, one of the largest manufacturers of prenatal tests around the entire world. And wouldn't you know it, this Chinese company, according to reporting from Reuters, has been sending the genetic data of pregnant women from 52 different countries over to the Chinese military. Now, you might be wondering and asking yourself, what use does the Chinese military have for this type of data? And the answer is unfortunately rather simple, and it has to do with a certain concept called precision medicine. Now, the positives of precision medicine are rather obvious. It's sort of in the name. If a doctor has information about a person's genetic makeup, then they can tailor their treatments perfectly to that individual person. As an example of what precision medicine looks like in practice, well, in the year 2004, scientists at the University of Wisconsin, they injected what they called naked DNA directly into the veins of lab rats for easy access to the muscle cells. As a part of China's 5-year plan regarding precision medicine, they made a specific point to mention that while they will be collecting the world's DNA, no one should be allowed to collect Chinese people's DNA. Here's specifically what they wrote under a subsection called Regulations of the People's Republic of China on the Management of Human Genetic Resources. Quote, national security focus includes special limitations on foreign access. Foreign organizations, individuals, and their institutions established or actually controlled shall not collect or preserve human genetic resources in China within the territory of our country and may not provide human genetic resources of our country abroad. Meaning that while they collect the world's DNA, no organization is allowed to touch the DNA of Chinese people. Let's take another quick look at what that colonel in the People's Liberation Army said about the future of weapons that the Chinese state is currently developing. Quote, "Humaneness in the conduct of war has become the focus of attention recently, and weapons of mass destruction are banned to reduce casualties. The times call for new kinds of weapons, and modern biotechnology can contribute to such weapons. In the near future, when military biotechnology is highly developed, modern biotechnology will have a revolutionary influence on the organization of military power with its more direct effects on the main entity of war, human beings. Modern biotechnology offers an enormous potential military advantage. The Chinese have put together a giant database of American DNA, and they are currently developing bioweapons that are capable of targeting people based on their DNA."
Is this the scenario that Dr. Redfield is talking about? Is this what the great pandemic is going to be? Should we be talking to Bill Gates? Or the people that put Event 201 together? Do you think that we will have another pandemic? Do you think that we will be prepared for what's coming? With all the events and scenarios that our world governments love to put on and spend copious amounts of money to play out, you'd think they would be preparing. Or maybe this is the whole point of gain-of-function research. Do the tests, prep the scenarios to the leaders of the world so they can prepare, while we're all out here just waiting for the next cataclysm. I am not ready nor wanting another pandemic, because it's not like we did so well with the last one that's still going. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe, and also hit the notification bell. And as always, stay safe, take care, and be kind to each other.